Recording. Unit 1, Quiz 1, this is the practice. So go ahead and write the word practice right there. And it says write down any interval where the function is increasing. It says Math 2, you may use an inequality or interval or set notation for your answer. But if you're in Math 2 Plus, I want you to write down all three answers: inequality, interval, and set notation. And so, by the way, if you're just in the regular Math 2 class, if you do all three, it will be worth extra credit. So I'm trying to look to see where it is increasing, and I'm saying there's a low, like a little mini low point right there. All of that is increasing. Here I'm coming on from negative infinity and I'm going up to 0. And so there's a lot of it that's increasing. You know what I mean? There's a lot of that graph that is increasing. So now I want to do my inequalities. And I will mention that it says any interval. So you don't have to write down the interval that's exactly true. You can write down an interval that you are confident in. So just like on the Khan Academy, I would, if I was in calculus, I would say right here at 2 is where it is going to start going up. And then I'm saying that it is definitely growing very fast, but notice, if I'm over here on the x-axis at infinity, well, then I will just want to go all the way up here, keep going up here, keep going up here, and eventually I would be able to find that my function had hit some very, very high number. So it is definitely going to infinity. All right, so what I want to say then is in my interval notation, I'm saying that x is going to infinity. And I'm going to say it like this. I'm going to say x is going to infinity and starting at 2. Now that's how I think about it, okay? But if you are like going into the calc class, or even there's definitely kids who just think about it and they just say it's like this: x is greater than 2. Now what about the equal sign? Do you need to put an equal sign? Do you have to put an equal sign? My answer is no, because right here at 2, it looks like it's, that's the exact moment that it starts increasing. So you can either include it or don't include it. And I don't care either way. You're still going to get credit. So that part, I hope, doesn't stress you out. You know what I mean? All right, so that was my inequality. Then in my interval notation, I would say that I am writing down an interval where it is definitely increasing. And I could say going from 2 up to infinity. Right here, though, try to be careful and always make that guy soft, just because you're never allowed to get to infinity. All right, so try to make sure that you do that. And then for the last one, it's called set notation. Check it out. I got this, and I've got this, the set of all x such that x should be greater than or equal to 2 is an example of my set notation. Now, that was just this piece right here. And that was, I felt comfortable in writing that one down. You don't have to write down both of them. But if you're kind of, a perfectionist, I will mention that you're definitely coming in from negative infinity over here. And I know that if I was at negative infinity, my function is growing. Oh, okay, all the way up until 0. So if you wanted to, you could also write down an and sign. Or if that was the part of the function that you noticed first, you could have written down the this answer as well. You could have said, okay, well, we're coming in from negative infinity and we are going up to 0. Or you could be the kid who noticed that this is the same thing as that x needs to be less than 0. On interval notation, you could write it with a negative infinity. Like I said, try to make that always be soft. And then all the way up here to 0. And again, I don't care on here if you do it like this, or if you do it like this, or if you do the soft bracket at those moments where it changes directions. The function changes directions. So if I'm looking at it, it goes up and then it starts coming down. that part, it doesn't matter here if you have an open bracket or a closed bracket. All right, for set notation, then I would say the set of all x such that x was less than 0. And like I said, you could even say equal to 0. It's totally up to you. That part doesn't matter at all. So we have these two different sections now that we've looked at, and you could have written down either of them. Could you have written down something else? Oh yeah, this question is going to be the hardest question for me to grade, because when you're looking at it, if you delved in here and you were just like, I'm just going to eyeball it, right here is where I noticed that it starts increasing from here to here. So you could have written a 3 and a 4. You could have written a 3 and a 4, and that would still be correct. I said any interval. So I really wanted this to be a problem where everyone felt like they were going to get some points, because as long as you find the spot where it's increasing, you are good to go. Now, is this question definitely going to ask for increasing, or do you think there's a chance it's going to ask for something different? Thumbs up if you think it's going to ask for something different. Yeah, that's very likely. I'm probably going to ask you, where is it decreasing? I might ask you where it's positive. I might ask you where it's negative. Okay, but the choices of the inequalities, the interval, the set notation, those choices are still yours, and it will still be any interval where it is positive, or any interval where it is negative, or any interval where it is decreasing. All right, so I'll come back to that in a minute if you guys want. Edward says the solution to the given equation is 4 and -3. Is his solution correct? Do the problem yourself in the space below. Justify your answers to prove he either did it correctly or that he made a mistake. Since you cannot see his work, do not worry about what he did wrong if his answer is not correct. I'm not trying to figure out what it was that he was thinking when he did it. I was just trying to solve it correctly, okay? So there's where I'm at. And I'm very disappointed here because I want to divide by 4, but I kind of hate working with a half. So I'm tempted to actually multiply by 4, but I already have a fraction there. It's like it's a tough question. It's not an easy question. What I guess I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and work with a half, because it looks like I'm going to work with a fraction either way. So I have v divided by 8. The absolute value of that equals 1/2, because 2/4, remember, is the same thing as 1/2. And now what am I going to do? I'm going to split it. So I have it equal to -1/2. And I have it equal to +1/2, and I sure wish I'd written smaller. So v divided by 8 is this, and v divided by 8 is this. And guess what? I already taught you cross multiplying, and that's a skill that you should use anytime you have a fraction equal to a fraction. 2v equals -1 times 8. -1 times 8 is just -8, so I'm just going to do that. And then I have 2v equals 1 times 8, which is going to be 8. I'm dividing by 2, I'm dividing by 2, I'm dividing by 2, I'm dividing by 2. Right now I'm feeling really good about my work, because the steps for my justifications here was that I used the addition property of equality, I used the division property of equality, and I split the equation, and then I cross multiply. And right now I'm using the division property of equality, and every single time I'm just using one property. I'm not using one property over here and a different property over there on each side of the equation. No, on each side of the equation, here I divided, here I divided, here I divided, here I divided. I'm feeling really good about my steps. Ready? V equals -4 and V equals +4. And I'm sorry, but his answer is correct. Edward, answer is incorrect. Okay, he should have gotten a -4. I don't know how he got a -3. Yeah.
I didn't cross multiply. I just multiplied by 8.
So your steps are your own, and you say what those steps were. So if you, for example, said, I multiplied by 8, and I can see that you multiplied by 8, then you're absolutely correct, because there's so many different ways to get the right answer. So if you said at the end that the correct answer was -4 and +4, and you said what you did every step in between, then you are absolutely on the right track. No worries, okay? And by the way, I'm not really letting you know how many points these questions are worth. This one is definitely worth 1, but if you did all 3 things, you could get 3 points here. And obviously in Math 2, you do have to do all 3 things here. This question, there's several steps, and I'm going to give you partial credit if you get it partially right, as in you're doing good work, you're doing justifications and stuff like that. So I'm guessing this is a 5-point problem. And then, namely, one of the points is literally for the sentence. Was he correct or was he incorrect? So if you forget the sentence, then you will lose a point. All right, that's definitely true. All right, so now we're that all the questions about that, or can I move on? Okay. Is the problem below a sandwich or a splits? I'm seeing this symbol right here. I'm looking at my cheat sheet, and it says if I have that symbol right there, is that the right symbol? Let me look at it one more time. Yep, that's the right symbol. That's definitely the right symbol. That means I have a sandwich. Therefore, this is a give me my points kind of problem. It's a 1-point problem. You get 1 point for answering it correctly. Okay. Show that P equals 3 is a solution to the problem below. In other words, does P equals 3 satisfy the equation? Well, I won't know if it satisfies unless I plug in P equals 3. Please do that for me. 1 minus 2 times 3. Take the absolute value of that. It should be less than or equal to 5. We're asking ourselves a question here. So I have 1 minus 5 takes the absolute value of that. Check to see if it is less than or equal to 5. 1 minus 5, 2 times 3 is 6. You're absolutely right. 1 minus 6 is a -5. Take the absolute value of that. Is it equal to or less than 5? The answer is yes. 5 is less than or equal to 5. Remember, it is allowed to equal. So my answer is yes. And this is a yes or no question, but it says show. So you can write down a yes, and you will get a point. But the other 2 points you will not get. There will be 2 points awarded for showing your work. Okay? So if you, specifically, the showing your work is this step right here, where you plug in that 3, all right? Where you plug in that 3, and then I want you to do a little bit of that arithmetic until I could see your answer. Right down here, where you get to the final statement, where you're checking to see, is this true? Is this true? Question mark. Okay, that's where the second point is awarded, and that would be the third and final point. All right, so now number 5, Katie says she has correctly solved for y, but I got a different answer, and Ms. Shatra said I was correct. At which of the following steps did she make a mistake? So I don't even want to look at her work because it confuses me when I look at other people's work. I'm just going to do it. Remember what I said, that if you want to minus something from both sides, you can just move it to the other side and make it negative. And this is called the subtraction property of equality. I am definitely stating what my steps are here, just so that I know that I'm doing it correctly. And I'm looking at her work, and I'm saying that she does not have what I have. She has a negative there. So I'm guessing that step 1 is the incorrect answer. Then I'm going to keep working on this. -3, -3, -3. I am not minusing 3. I'm taking that -3. I'm calling it a -3, and I'm using the division property of equality because that -3 was multiplied by y. So it's actually called a coefficient, and you should divide to undo that multiplication. When I look at her answer for Katie, y equals 10 with a negative sign out in front and that 3. And then, by the way, the negative of a negative you can turn into a positive. So I get that 2/3 x over 3. She does not have the same answer as I do. I have a negative here and I have a positive here. So when I look back at step 2 and I see that I said, oh, look at this. This is so wrong. Look at it. She turned a -2x into a -2y. So guess what? choose all that apply. Should have been written at the top of this problem. And I know you know that I did not mean to make so many mistakes, okay? I made the problem up. I'm typing the problem in myself. I meant for there to literally just be one mistake. But when you're making mistakes, boy, you can make multiple, right? So she made a mistake in step 1 and she made a mistake in step 2. And this should have been her final answer. Ooh, that's tough. I promise on the actual test, there should only be one answer that's wrong. But if there's more than one that's wrong and you think I've done it wrong, you just mark all the ones that have done it wrong and I'll double check it for you. All right. Ms. Chatra gave us a pop quiz where students needed to write down their solution to the following question. Where is the function negative? Students could give their answer in either interval, set, or inequality notation. Which of the following answers are correct? Okay. Here's where the function is negative. So that starts at 2, and I believe it goes to infinity. So should I mark yes or no on x is greater than or equal to 2? I'm going to say yes. It is definitely correct. Hey, there's a sentence here. If x is any number greater than 2. Yep, that's definitely true. This is interval notation, and I'm loving it. And that one, negative infinity up to 2. Oh, yeah. No, that's not right. There you go, guys.